We often fixate on the faces of the digital age, the tech titans in Silicon Valley who write the code that runs our phones. But if you look past the screens, you have to ask, who actually builds the physical world? Who forges the steel for the skyscrapers, generates the power for the grid, and mines the raw materials that make modern civilization possible? The answer lies not in a flashy tech campus, but in the quiet, fortified corridors of Hisar, India. This is the story of Savitri Jindal. She is not your typical corporate shark. For 55 years, she was a traditional housewife, completely removed from boardrooms and balance sheets. Yet today, she stands as the wealthiest woman in Asia, controlling a conglomerate with a net worth that rivals the GDP of entire nations like Iceland or Cambodia. She is the invisible architect of modern India, a woman who stepped out of the shadows to command an empire. How does a grandmother with no formal business training hold the keys to one of the world's largest industrial powerhouses? If you value deep dives into the hidden power structures of the Asian century, hit that subscribe button now. We are uncovering the titans you need to know. The story of her ascent begins with a tragedy that shook the Indian industrial landscape to its core. The date was March 31st, 2005. Om Prakash Jindal, the legendary founder of the Jindal Group and the patriarch of the family, was traveling by helicopter over the fields of Saharanpur. In an instant, a mechanical failure brought the machine down, killing him immediately. It was a catastrophic loss. O.P. Jindal was not just a businessman, he was the gravitational center of a massive, sprawling empire. When a figure of that magnitude vanishes overnight, the immediate expectation is chaos. Wall Street and Dalal Street have seen this narrative play out 1,000 times. The patriarch falls and the empire fractures. Analysts predicted a succession-style corporate war, expecting the four ambitiously capable sons, Prithviraj, Sajjan, Ratan, and Naveen, to tear the conglomerate apart in a battle for dominance. But that is not what happened. Instead of a corporate civil war, a new figure emerged from the private quarters of the family home. Savitri Jindal had spent her life in Tinsukia and Hisar, adhering to the strict traditional gender roles of a Mawari household. She was the anchor of the domestic sphere, raising 9 children and managing a massive joint family, but she had never negotiated a deal or tended a blast furnace. By her own admission, she did not even know how much money her husband made. The business was the men's domain, the home was hers. The cultural expectation was for her to retreat into the quiet, reverent life of a widow. In conservative business circles, the idea of a woman, especially one with no corporate resume, taking the chairperson's seat was unthinkable. Yet she understood something the market analysts missed. The danger to the group was not a lack of capital, it was a lack of cohesion. She realized that if she did not step into the vacuum, the brotherhood would dissolve into rivalry. So she defied the script. She accepted the chairmanship not as a figurehead, but as the moral and strategic authority of the group. This required a profound psychological shift. She had to transition from managing the emotional dynamics of a household to managing a conglomerate worth billions of dollars. She was not there to micromanage the steel output. She was there to manage the egos and ambitions of 4 powerful men. She became the stabilizing force, the steel matriarch who ensured that while the assets were divided, the family remained united. It was a move of pure pragmatic genius, proving that in the high-stakes world of Asian dynasties, the soft power of matriarchy is often the strongest force in the room. To understand how Savitri Jindal maintained control, you have to look at the architecture of the empire itself. Most corporate dynasties in India follow a predictable tragedy. The patriarch dies, the sons fight, and the assets get carved up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Savitri prevented this by designing what business analysts now call the federation model. She realized that trying to force 4 ambitious men, Prithviraj, Sajjan, Ratan, and Naveen, under one chief executive would be a disaster. Instead, she gave them autonomy. She split operational control into 4 distinct kingdoms. Sajjan Jindal took the reins of JSW Steel and Energy, turning it into a beast on the Bombay Stock Exchange. Naveen Jindal took charge of Jindal Steel and Power. The other brothers managed stainless steel and saw pipes. But here is the genius part. While they had operational freedom, the ownership remained locked in a complex web of family trusts and cross-holdings. Savitri sits at the center of this web. She holds the keys to the trusts that own the shares that control the companies. It is a fortress designed to be impenetrable. This structure does two things. First, it makes a hostile takeover impossible. If a foreign competitor wanted to buy out one of the companies, they would find themselves tangled in a legal maze where every road leads back to Savitri. Second, it forces cooperation. The brothers might run separate companies, but their fortunes are tied together through these cross-holdings. If one succeeds, they all get richer. If one fails, the family takes the hit together. It creates a balance of power that is almost medieval in its simplicity, but modern in its execution. With the home front specialized and secure, the Federation went on the offensive. Under Savitri's quiet watch, the group stopped being just an Indian manufacturer and became a global predator for resources. They realized that to control the price of steel, you cannot just own the factories, you have to own the dirt the metal comes from. This sparked a massive global acquisition spree. They bought iron ore mines in the deserts of Chile to feed their hungry blast furnaces. They secured coal concessions in the rich seams of Mozambique to power their thermal plants. They did not stop at raw materials. They bought rolling mills in the United States and specialized manufacturing units across Europe. Today, the sun literally never sets on the Jindal Empire. When a factory shift ends in Hisar, another is just beginning in Texas. Back home, the timing was perfect. As the Indian government launched the Make in India initiative, pouring trillions of rupees into highways, airports and power grids, the Jindal Group was the only entity large enough to supply the raw materials for all of it. They were not just participating in the economy, they were the engine room. This alignment with national infrastructure goals allowed the group to quadruple its turnover in just a decade. The financial impact of this strategy is staggering. We are talking about a net worth that fluctuates with commodity cycles but consistently hovers around $30 billion. To put that in perspective, Savitri Jindal is often worth more than the entire valuation of the tech unicorns that grab all the headlines. She is the wealthiest woman in Asia, not because she invented an app, but because she owns the physical backbone of the continent. It raises a fascinating question about corporate governance. We are taught that professional boards and unrelated directors are the gold standard. Yet here is a grandmother managing a federation of sons that outperforms Western conglomerates. I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think this family federation model is more stable than a traditional corporate board, or is it a ticking time bomb? Let me know your thoughts. But the influence of the Jindal dynasty does not stop at the factory gates or the stock exchange. In a move that surprised many casual observers, Savitri Jindal stepped directly into the chaotic, dusty arena of Indian politics. She did not just donate to parties from the sidelines, she became the candidate. Serving as a member of the Legislative Assembly and later as a cabinet minister in Haryana, she managed portfolios ranging from urban local bodies to power generation. We need to understand the strategic calculation behind this. In the West, billionaires often lobby from the outside, hiring firms to represent their interests in Washington or Brussels. In the Asian context, particularly in India, direct political participation solidifies the family's social contract. It signals that their massive accumulation of capital is tied directly to the welfare of the region that birthed them. It moves the family's influence beyond just the balance sheet and into the actual governance of the state. When we zoom out and compare her trajectory with other Asian female titans, a distinct and fascinating archetype emerges. If you look at the self-made tech founders in China or the retail moguls rising in Southeast Asia, their stories are often about aggressive disruption. They fit the mold of the conqueror, building something from zero with loud public personas that demand attention. Savitri represents something different, the dynastic guardian. She is less like a Silicon Valley CEO obsessed with the next quarter's growth and more like a royal regent protecting the throne for the next generation. Her power is not derived from writing code or inventing a product. It comes from the masterful preservation and expansion of a legacy during its most vulnerable moment. This is the unique matriarch archetype in Asian business culture. It prioritizes internal cohesion over public posturing. While others are giving keynote speeches, she is ensuring that the family trust remains airtight against external threats. She operates with a quiet authority that commands respect, not because she is the loudest voice in the room, but because she controls the resources that everyone else needs. However, this intersection of massive private wealth and public service walks a razor's edge. Navigating the potential conflicts of interest required immense political dexterity. Critics often questioned how one could regulate industries while owning the companies within them. Yet her resilience is undeniable. Even when political tides turned against her party, she maintained her relevance, proving that her authority was personal, not just partisan. She showed that in the high-stakes game of emerging market economies, the line between corporate strategy and political survival is often non-existent, and walking that line requires a balance of steel and silk that few possess. Looking back at this transformation, the Jindal Group has evolved from a successful domestic manufacturer into a global heavy industry titan under her stewardship. But the true legacy of the Steel Queen is not just the sheer tonnage of steel produced or the megawatts of power generated across continents. It is the survival of the dynasty itself. She proved that true power in Asia often looks different from the Western corporate archetypes we study in business school. It is quiet, it is familial, and it is deeply resilient. It does not seek the spotlight, it seeks stability. As the empire looks toward the future, the challenge shifts again. The torch must eventually pass to the next generation of grandchildren, a transition that has toppled many great houses before. But for now, the center holds. Savitri Jindal remains the invisible force of gravity, keeping the planets in orbit, demonstrating that the hand that rocks the cradle can indeed rule the world. If you want to continue exploring the architects of the Asian economy and the hidden figures shaping our future, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We will see you in the next deep dive. If you want to know why one of the biggest fashion brands in Asia fell, watch this video next.